Happy Friday, everyone. In today's report, we're going to take a look at the Ostrich farm, and I have some sad news to report. And Statistics Canada has come out with Canada's jobs report. The Liberals are celebrating, but I took a deep dive inside this report, and there is very little to celebrate. I got some budget update information, as well as COP30 in Brazil just started. This is peak hypocrisy. Let's get into this report. We're going to start this episode off with a veteran from the United Kingdom that breaks down on TV. Rows and rows of white tombs. For what? For what exactly, he says. The sacrifices were not worth the results. He says, I fought for freedom. It's worse today than it was when I was fighting for it. This is what liberal progressive values looks like. Freedom is gone. Sacrifices erased by ideology. Tradition, strong family values, and prosperity being erased by woke liberalism, pitching that sacrifices need to be made and selling us that we need to accept a lower standard of. Isn't that the truth? Our veterans fought for our freedom, and our freedoms are going out the window. It's getting so bad in woke Canada. They want to strip away all of our history as a country and how we fought for our freedoms, that you're no longer allowed to wear a poppy in our court system.
Now, there's a prosecutor named Lana Morelli who was just starting a jury trial, and midway through the first day, she got an email from Sask Courts. The email told her to take the poppy off that she was wearing in court. Now, the reason was they have a practice directive, and the rule says that you cannot have an adornment on your gown. That means no poppy, no breast cancer awareness ribbon, no nothing. The thinking behind this is lawyers have to be seen as being impartial and neutral in court. They just want the black robes and the white shirts. Lana Morelli didn't like this.
We have freedom of speech because of what these brave men and women have done for our country, and not being able to honor them by wearing poppies while I'm arguing for freedom and protection tugs at my heartstrings. I have grandparents that have fought in the war. I have family members that are part of the Legion, and I did go to school in the States, and I had many friends that were in the military and went overseas to fight for freedom.
I reached out to Sask Justice about this to get their thinking on it, and I found out sort of two answers. The first one was, we have law in Saskatchewan that says you're allowed to wear poppies in the workplace if it doesn't endanger health and safety. But on the flip side, the government respects the independence of the courts. They can make their own rules. So we have sort of two contrasting positions here. How are we going to sort it out? Well, it might end up in court. Who knows? The prosecutor, Lana Morelli, took the poppy off. It's sitting on her copy of the Canadian Criminal Code on her desk.
It might end up in court. The woke court, which is removing the mandatory sentences for child predators. And now they're not even allowing people to wear poppies because it might represent a symbol of freedom. The reason that we have the court system in the first place because of our veterans. I don't know about you, but I am furious about this decision. And then there's the NDP, Heather McPherson, which thinks it's acceptable to wear a watermelon instead of a poppy in our parliament building. I often disagree with the Premier of Nova Scotia, but today I'm on his side. He is disgusted with the demand that staffers remove poppies from courtrooms. He's currently working on legislation allowing people to wear poppies to work because we all know that's where this is going. By the way, I currently don't have a poppy. I haven't left my house in a week, but today I'm going to be leaving my house just to get a poppy. I will be wearing it from this moment forwards. This is from 3 years ago. Our judicial court system needs to watch this video.
So many things to talk about with you, but you've raised the poppy. It's the 100th anniversary of the poppy as a symbol of remembrance. What does it mean to you?
Well, I think what it means to me is probably what it means to everyone. But I have had a thought, to reflect upon it. And first that comes to mind, it's a very resilient symbol. And its meaning hasn't really changed much over the 100 years that we've been using it as the symbol of remembrance. And I think there are two very simple things that it does. One is that it honors those who committed themselves to the point of death or serious injury on our behalf. And the second is that it seeks to support those whom they've left behind, the families, and the injured who returned home. And those two principles continue right to today.
Let us not forget, wear your poppy proud. And I'm going to end with this on the poppy. Don Cherry was right all along. He warned us about the poppy. Go out and wear your poppy and support our veterans in this country. We owe it to them and for the freedom that we currently have in this country, which is rapidly eroding as we speak. Here's Sean Fraser on the Ostrich situation. Pure evil lives amongst us.
The death of the Ostrich cases, Mr. Justice, do you have any thoughts about the case not proceeding to the Supreme Court and whether the ostriches should end their lives?
Look, we obviously are pleased to see the decision of the Supreme Court. It's important that the Minister of Agriculture and CFIA are able to protect the health of the general Canadian public and of the food that we consume in the poultry industry as well. This is a decision that is following the science and evidence, and I'm sure my colleague who has conduct to file will have more to say today.
This is disgusting. We are not eating these ostriches. They're not part of the food supply. They were testing the eggs for science research. Some of the birds contracted the avian flu a year ago, and those birds are no longer with us. The remaining flock was able to survive the flu, and they refused to retest the birds to see if they in fact have beaten the virus. There was zero testing, none. So how can you justify the culling of 300 healthy birds? It makes zero sense. At least if they tested the birds, which is cheap, it would have cost almost nothing to test the birds. If they were in fact still sick, go for it. That makes sense. But without testing these birds, what they did was just cruel. This is a reminder of what the Liberal health minister thinks about the ostriches in Canada. Thank you, Ezra Levant.
Thank you, Minister, for agreeing to accredit Rebel News. I very much appreciate your dedication to freedom of the press. I have a question about the ostrich farm. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to ask about the lawsuit because I don't want you to talk about anything that are before the courts. But there was a letter, and I noticed in the statement you talk about Canada-U.S. cooperation. I know that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your U.S. counterpart, has written saying he thinks that there's some medical research value in these ostriches because they had avian flu, but then have recovered and are now immune. In fact, he's offered to do the research and even to pay for it. It seems to me that we need allies around Trump's cabinet table. And if you could throw him a bone and say, sure, Secretary Kennedy, you can study these birds, it's sort of no skin off Canada's nose. And don't you think it would be helpful to have an ally in Trump's cabinet when we're doing our trade negotiations?
Prochaine question, merci.
That's my question. Don't you think it would be helpful to have a friend?
Next reporter, merci.
Oh, you're not going to answer, Minister?
Prochaine question, merci.
I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?
Next question, thank you.
Minister, did I miss an answer? I don't get it. Okay, I'll sit down. I guess it's question period, not answer period.
Merci beaucoup.
Did you see the smile on her face? Look at this smile. Does this look like somebody that's remorseful whatsoever? And today, hopefully, this health minister has trouble sleeping at night, but I guarantee you she's smiling. of the elimination of healthy birds off this planet. I will not be showing anybody the videos of them eliminating the ostriches as they are way too graphic and disturbing. Nearly 1,000 shots were fired over the course of 4 hours last night, meaning the birds were scared. They witnessed their fellow flock members gone. If there was roughly 300-ish birds, it appears they needed at least 3 shots per animal, meaning the first one did not finish them off. If you want to watch the full on-the-ground report, Rebel News was on scene, as well as Daisy Media. They have everything on video. Head over to Twitter and write in Ostrich Farm and click on latest for the full story. Absolutely heartbreaking. Pray for the friends and families at this time. It's time to smile because that story was way too tragic. Watch Mark Carney make a joke and on CBC Live, and then he glitches out like the Matrix is broken.
Brian Mulrooney came to the club in 1988 to argue for a free trade agreement with the United States. I'd like to argue for a free trade agreement with the United States. He was a little more successful on that.
Here he is. He glitches out permanently. It was just kept on glitching because you know what? Mark Carney's a lot more funny glitching than when he makes his not so funny jokes. Watch CBC saying, oops, we're gonna have to leave you because Mark Carney is glitching out.
Apologies to our viewers. We are clearly having some technical issues right now. We were listening to the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, as he was speaking, starting to address business leaders at the Canadian Club of...
Wouldn't it be nice if just Mark Carney glitched out permanently so we didn't have to hear him anymore? Now that the budget was released, a new poll came out. Those who agree, I'm willing to accept a lower economic growth in Canada if it means greater economic independence from the United States. 70% of respondents agree. And I wrote, without the United States as our trading partner, Canada would be a third world nation. So these people that are saying, yes, oh boy, we need the United States. 76% of all our trade goes down to the US. The only reason that we're seeing this kind of result is because our population is straight up brainwashed by CBC and the Liberals saying we could be our own very best customer. No one could take away from us what we could give ourselves. It's just such a joke. So there you have it, Canada. The plan is working perfectly. Canadians were told to make sacrifices and accept a lower standard of living. Welcome to the liberal Canada. Take your cookie crumbs and be happy. 72% said they were disappointed with the progress the government has made in tackling the cost of living. But at the top, it says most Canadians say Liberals falling short, but still approve of Carney. Holy crap. Let's take a look at the jobs report. The Liberals are celebrating in the House of Commons today because Canada added, StatsCan said Canada added 67,000 jobs and the unemployment rate has dropped to 6.9%. But let's take a look at underneath the hood. The employment rate rose, that 67,000 in October. Sounds great until you realize 85,000 of those jobs were part-time jobs. So we're trading in careers for shifts again. Tim Hortons workers for everybody. That means we lost basically 20,000 full-time jobs based on these numbers. And let's not forget, the unemployment dipping to 6.9% is still a 9-year high outside of the pandemic. That's what Ottawa calls progress. Look, we're still going up, Canada. 33,000 job gains for men 25 to 54 finally saw a small bump, and youth finally saw a small bump of 21,000. But remember, these are all Tim Horton workers. The youth unemployment is still 14.1%, a 15-year high. So much for our future. Unemployment by age and unemployment charts. Let's take a look. As you can see, they're all elevated, but it's nice to see that there's a little bit of a decrease in all categories. And it's also nice to see that the employment rate for age group is also going up. I want people to know this. The reason that we're seeing this little bit of a bump is because our immigration levels have leveled off. If we were still flooding our country with immigration right now, we would continue the downtrend. But that's why they shut the door just in time for this budget so that they could come out with this wonderful report, cloak everybody's eyes saying, look at our economy. It's on fire right now. Let's approve this budget and move forwards. But in reality, they're just fixing what they broke in the past, showing us these wonderful flashy numbers, which is just a little blip. We have a long way to go and get this budget approved. Generational debt for everybody. What's also good news is 73,000 of the jobs were from the private sector. The public sector is flat this month. It's not that much jump for joy because outside of October, this report, this is the first time we've seen increases in the private sector since June. And right now we have a housing affordability crisis. Even though prices are going down across Canada, people still can't afford to purchase homes. That's why no one's buying homes and prices are coming down. The Liberals are promising us 500,000 new homes per year starting this year and every year after that, but we're only going to deliver 245,000 homes this year. Construction industry just lost 15,000 jobs in just 1 month. Let that sink in. We need millions of homes, but builders are losing work. How are they going to get to this 500,000 homes per year if we're losing our construction workers? Here's what this looks like. That's why retail 41,000 and transportation. That's why I say Uber, Lyft, Uber drivers for everybody, and retail, those Tim Hortons. Oh, those coffees are going to be, you're going to get 2 workers to serve you coffee now. We got recreation, 25,000, utilities, a small bump of 7,600. So service jobs are up. Goods produced down. Here's the chart. And as you can see, the #1 job losses in October was for the construction industry. Ontario actually carried the country with 55,000 jobs created. The unemployment has decreased to 7.6% in Ontario, but Windsor still has 10% unemployment thanks to tariff chaos. Southern Ontario industry is bleeding jobs right now. What was very interesting with this jobs report, they gave us some new charts. Meanwhile, 27.7% of Canadians say they can't meet their financial needs. 1 in 4 households struggling with rent, food, gas, and clothing. But hey, at least the stats look like we are strong on paper. Here's what it looks like in a chart. And there's a great divide across this country. Amongst renters, 37% are struggling. 24% are homeowners. So if you own your home, you're doing better than if you're renting. Owning a home has become a new class of divide in Canada. And our Canadian youth are being hit the hardest right now. 31% of youth are struggling. 32% of couples with kids are struggling, and 47%, so almost half, single parents can't make ends meet. That is the human side of 3.5% wage growth, because that is all they're flaunting in the House of Commons. The Liberals are like, look, our wages are exploding, but when you actually look at the statistics, we're not doing very well. And here's this wage increase. They've rose $1.27 per hour year-over-year basis to $37.06. The problem is inflation and your mortgage renewal ate that up before it hit your paycheck. And the Bank of Canada says hours worked fell 0.2% due to strikes. But what's striking to me is how many Canadians are working more and earning less. And if you go to my Twitter X account, you'll be able to see this chart is where the economy is strong right now and where the economy is weak based on the unemployment rate levels. So here's the bottom line, Canada. More jobs, fewer full-time job positions, rising wages, but falling living standards. Lower unemployment, but higher poverty. This is what a decaying economy with pretty numbers looks like. This is what growth looks like. Imagine what a recession feels like. How many of you are working multiple jobs right now in order to make ends meet? Leave a comment. I want to hear from you. Are you working multiple jobs in order to just survive in this country? So there's no surprise a new Nanos poll was released today. Check it out.
Canadians are struggling with affordability. A new survey says 1 in 5 Canadians have skipped paying a bill so they can buy groceries. According to Nanos research, adults under 55 were 4 times more likely to put off payments for their cars, credit cards and electricity bills to buy food. The survey found just over 18% of those aged 18 to 34 said they missed a bill sometimes or often. The figure drops to 4.2% for those 55 and older. Inflation and high housing costs are key factors contributing to the generational divide.
Just like I reviewed in my jobs report, shiny numbers, but underneath the hood, it's much worse than what they're presenting. Our expert genius economist does not know how to do math, or if he knows how to do math, it is the worst math I've ever seen.
And what this budget shows is that with the $1 trillion of investment that we are going to catalyze, we are going to put more than $3,000 in the pocket of every Canadian by the end of this decade.
Are you kidding me? $1 trillion of catalyzed activity will return $3,000 into your pocket in the next decade. Is that for real? Because that is so small for $1 trillion. Think about that. 1.23% for that insane investment we're going to get back per year, per person. I am so excited. Mark Carney's math is worse than a 5th grader. Andrew Scheer nails it. Canadians don't care about Ottawa's gossip. They care about groceries being unaffordable. Rent is insane and inflation is rising again. Every warning light is flashing. The Bank of Canada, the PBO, credit agencies, we're going to get into that. Carney's path is unsustainable.
I can guarantee you, okay, you stop 100 people in any main street in this country. They are uninterested in palace intrigue. They are uninterested in parliamentary press gallery reporting on liberal-sourced rumors. They are interested in facts that will affect their life. And the facts of this budget are their costs are going to go up. Inflation is already on the rise. Food inflation is already way over budget. There are alarm bells being sounded by everybody from the parliamentary budget officer to the Bank of Canada governor to credit rating agencies saying that the path that Mark Carney has put us on is unsustainable. That's what Conservatives are focused on. We are going to hold this government to account. We're going to fight to bring down prices, and we're not going to let liberal sources put out rumors to distract from a terrible budget that Canadians are giving a giant thumbs down to. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Canadians are not too impressed about this budget. Let's take a look at the credit agencies. Major breaking, credit agency Fitch issues a warning for Canada. Budget 2025 underscores the erosion of the federal government's finances. It has breached all 3 Budget 2024 guideposts. Federal finances run a high risk of further deterioration. What does this all mean? This means that the credit agencies across the world, which says Canada has a AAA credit rating, and the Liberals have been flaunting this for years, is about to fall. And when it falls, it's not just the federal debt that's going to become more expensive. It will be the provincial debt and municipal debt. So it will be a domino effect. This could be catastrophic. Pierre Poilievre spoke out today, and I 100% agree with him. We should be the richest country on planet Earth. We just need the government to get out of the way.
We should be the richest country on planet Earth, and that should be our goal. We got the 3rd biggest supply of oil. We're the 5th in natural gas. Number 1 in uranium and potash. We have the longest oceanic coastline, the most fresh water anywhere on Earth. We have by far the shortest shipping distance from the Americas to both Europe and Asia. We have the cold weather to reduce the cost of these massive data centers. We have the energy to power those centers. We have literally everything it takes to have the highest quality of living. And those kinds of resources and the economic data that flows from it means real things to real people. In such an economy, it would be easy for young people to afford homes. Single mothers would walk down grocery aisles and fill their cart with the things they want their children to eat, not the things that they can afford and don't have to turn back when they get to the checkout because the prices are too high. A country like the one I've described would mean that everybody would own a home with a yard, and every single night there'd be meat and potatoes on the dinner table. Those are the practical benefits that come from having a strong economy that produces low-cost but high-quality goods. That was the promise of Canada. But that promise is now broken.
Yeah. And guess what? We have a continued Liberal government, and they're pledging to explode our deficit, which is going to increase the cost of living because their investments are not getting them out of the way. They're creating more departments. They're creating more government programs, and it's their ideology. They think they know better than you. I'm glad Pierre Poilievre still has some humor given our circumstances.
This, of course, is the result of a costly government. Costly government drives up the cost of living. Now, in the last election, Mark Carney promised that he was going to be different. The Liberal Party was, see, the lights are going out because the energy prices are so high. It's that industrial carbon tax again. But Mr. Carney was going to be the tight-fisted banker. He was going to be nothing like Justin Trudeau. He made so many promises. And yet, what have been the results of all these promises? First, he promised that he would negotiate a win with the Americans. By July 21st, he would have a deal. Still no win, still no deal, still no elbows, still no jobs.
COP30 just started to discuss saving the planet, but you are not going to believe what they did for this conference.
Deep in the Amazon, where air once hummed with birdsong and the scent of rain-soaked earth, there is now only the growl of bulldozers and the sting of diesel fumes. Families who have lived off the land for generations watch helplessly as their homes, livelihoods, and futures are reduced to piles of felled trees. All to build a highway for world leaders arriving to talk about saving the planet for the November COP30. Here's our report.
Nothing says saving the planet quite like bulldozing tens of thousands of acres of pristine Amazon rainforest. This in a bid to build a shiny new 4-lane highway, all in preparation for a climate summit. As world leaders prepare to gather in Brazil's Belém this November for COP30, a global conference on climate action, a massive stretch of protected rainforest is being cleared. This is to make way for Avenida Liberdade, or the Avenue of Liberty. But liberty for whom exactly? Certainly not for the wildlife, indigenous communities, or the fragile ecosystem that once thrived here. The irony is almost too much to bear. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth, plays a crucial role in absorbing carbon dioxide and regulating the planet's climate. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, chainsaws, bulldozers, and diesel-powered excavators are carving through the very forest these leaders claim to protect. The sound of rustling leaves and exotic bird song has been replaced by the relentless roar of heavy machinery. Once a thriving part of the rainforest, the land now resembles a war zone. Logs stacked like corpses, wetlands paved over, wildlife fleeing in all directions. For the locals, the construction of this highway is a personal catastrophe. They say everything has been destroyed. Many lost their primary source of income, and what's worse is that no one was given any compensation. The lush land that once supported generations has been reduced to a soulless stretch of asphalt. And this is only the beginning. Displacement isn't just a possibility, it's practically a guarantee. The highway won't even connect with the local communities. Instead, its towering walls will cut them off entirely, serving only the endless stream of trucks that will soon thunder through what was once untouched rainforest. It's not just human lives being uprooted. The Amazon is home to over 10% of the world's known species, many of which will not survive the destruction.
This video continues on for another 5 minutes. You get the point. So they're talking about saving the planet, and what they did is destroyed the planet to hold. Everybody flies in from their private jets. They pave through the Amazon rainforest to discuss saving the planet. Do you see the hypocrisy in all this? This is peak hypocrisy. Destroy the rainforest, the lung of the earth, so that they could discuss how they could tax us even further so that we lower our standard of living, so that they could continue to pave 4-lane roads that nobody will ever use except for them. Here's my last clip. Elizabeth May is heartbroken because Mark Carney isn't going to COP30 because he's dealing with the budget right now. But check out what she says. Oh boy.
I have to say that as a Canadian and a climate activist, I'm heartbroken that Canada is basically missing in action at a critical global meeting right now. So here we are 10 years after COP21 that took place in Paris in 2015, and we're absent now. This is the 10-year anniversary. This is the truth-telling moment, and our Prime Minister, who was going to be there today, has canceled going. Mark Carney, as Special Envoy, attended COP26 in Glasgow and delivered to the world this great achievement, the Financial Alliance for Net Zero, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, a commitment of $150 trillion.
That has since collapsed. I'm sure she knows this, so I don't know what she's talking about.
From the masters of the universe, the big money, the people Mark Carney can talk to. They all signed up, and it's all washed away now. None of those trillions of dollars from the big banks and big investors that was pledged at COP26 exists anymore. Canada can have a strong economy, but not on a dead planet. This planet is on fire, and we are walking away from the danger.
No, we have these lunatics coming in, paving a 4-lane highway, destroying the Amazon rainforest so that they could talk about taxing us more. Elizabeth May needs to wake up and get off the bottle. And the leaders of the world's biggest polluters are no-shows as the head of state gather for the UN Climate Summit. They are woken up saying this thing is finished. The U.S. has walked away from the Paris Accord. People are waking up saying, you know what? Even Bill Gates is coming out saying, we're not going to have this ending event. It's over. It's over. The whole thing is over. The only person that continues down this road is Mark Carney. And Canada represents 1.5% of total global emissions. And the major emitters are saying, we're scrapping it right now. You go ahead, Canada. Finish yourself off. That's it for today's report. It was longer, but I had a lot to discuss with you today. What do you think about the ostrich situation? It is so heartbreaking because it didn't need to happen. What do you think about the jobs report? The Liberals are pretty happy with these numbers, but when you look under the hood, it's not looking so hot. I'm very concerned about the PBO and now the global rating agencies saying Canada is basically going off the cliff. We're going to downgrade you guys. Things are not looking good. And what do you think about the peak hypocrisy with COP30? It is actually unbelievable. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. I'll see you on the next report.